Okay, so what I'm going to show you in this video is how you can publish a website to a domain that you've already purchased, or you have a colleague or a client that's purchased this and you're wanting to connect the two together. So I'm going to do this with the view that you haven't got any understanding of how to do this. So it can look pretty complicated. It's something that when I first learned how to do it, it does seem a little bit overwhelming. There are some things you don't need to worry about, and there are some things that you do need to worry about. So I'm going to try and talk through as best I can how to do this. So there's a couple of ways. So I'm using Webflow for this example, and I would think that most, probably WordPress as well, most modern website builders these days have plugins or ways to automatically be able to help you do this. But saying that, sometimes things may not run as smoothly as you wanted to. In this case, with a client, I'm using Webflow for this example. So I've designed a web page for a client. He's bought the domain himself, and he's wanting to now publish his website to the domain that he's purchased. So Webflow has a built-in production scheduler which will help you to connect the two together. I've tried this a couple of times and without success, and it may be that there was something within the domain that wasn't configured correctly, which I think is the case. So I'm just going to show you that first of all, because like I said, 9% of the time it will work. So if I just go into the page that into the actual website for the client that I've got, so this one here, I've got Shrine Crystals loading page. If I come into here and go to settings, it's going to give me the settings for this client website here. So you can see at the moment, we've got our staging set up correctly. So this is the part of the website that is stored on Webflow for when you're testing your website and you're building it. You can test this out as much as you want, and until you're happy, this isn't going to be live on the website. So you can see there, and it's given us our own Webflow domain there. Shrine Crystals loading page .webflow.io. Now, I wouldn't recommend using this for external facing, just it doesn't look very professional having a Webflow.io domain. And if we scroll down, you can see we've got a production tab. So this is where you will set your final domain that you're going to use. And it has a help section here that you can go through as well. And as it says here, so sometimes you may see the websites written with www. And as well without the www. So it's always best to use www. As I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but it's just due to the fact that www. is saying that is the main central location for the domain. So the only time you really change that is if you have multiple subdomains within your domain. So you might have, so in the case of my client, you might have Shrine Crystals offers.co.uk as a subdomain, and your shrinecrystal.co.uk is your main subdomain. Like I said, you don't really need to worry about it too much. It's just if you sometimes see a URL without the www. It's better to use the www. as a rule. I've never said www. so many times in a row, I think. So as we can see, it says here, because I tried to do this a couple of times already, we've got a message that says unverified domain, not published. And if we scroll down to the bottom, I think it was at the bottom, where are we? There should be a history of what we have done previously, but maybe not. Usually it does tell you, so if I just go back to the general tab here, and if I scroll down to the bottom, maybe not, unless it's under here. Maybe not. Anyway, so usually it will tell you once you've sent a request hook up your domain, it'll make a little time log of that, so you can see that I've done that 2 days ago, and you can check the progress of that transfer. So in my case, I sent this link to the client, which I'm going to show you now. He accepted it a couple of times. 2 days later, I've checked it again this morning, and I'm getting this message, and I'll show you what this is. So shrinecrystals.co.uk, and you can see it's given us some error for that domain. So I've done this previously for a client, and by 2 days, we should be able to see the domain and the website successfully connected together. But because we don't, if we come into here, you can see it says unverified domain, not published. Now, what I did to do this manual process is, so I'll just show you what I did here. So I'm going to go to add a custom domain, and you have a few options here. So you've got quick connect domain, which is the one that I did before. You've got quick connect subdomain, which again, you don't really need to worry about unless you're doing subdomains for your company or your business. And you can manually add domain, which is it's asking us to change some things in our hosting there. So that's sort of what that is, manually add domain. So I'll show you the steps that I did to try and automatically connect the domain. So once we click that, just click continue. So it uses a third-party bit of software to enable you to link to the hosting provider, and the hosting and domain provider together. So once you click that, it'll ask us what domain would you like to connect to with Webflow. So by default, just put in shrinecrystals.co.uk or whatever your domain is. So it might take the www away, but don't worry about that. So it's going to analyze our domain, and you can see it's picked up the 123 reg there. And at this point, if you don't know the login details of your hosting provider, your domain provider, you can send them a link here. So where it says or forward to someone else, if you click that, you'll get a link that you can send to the relevant person. And once they receive that link, all they need to do is just confirm the domain process by entering their username and password. And once they do that, the two should be linked together. So in this case, my client received this email just asking him to input his username and password and just verify the domain transfer. He did that a couple of times, I believe. And like I said, we're still having some issues at this stage. So I'm going to cancel that. So you can see now that I'm viewing the domain, it says it's not published and the domain is unverified. So if I come down to here, it says visit the admin console of your domain registrar, or what that means is the website you bought your domain from, and create the DNS record shown below. Note that it may take up to a few hours for the DNS changes to propagate. So that's another thing to bear in mind, is it does take a little bit of time for the domain and the hosting to link up together. So we'll do this, and I'll come back to it a little bit later and just double check that it's all working correctly. So you can see it's got two records that it wants us to make sure is correct in our domain backend. So we've got one field here. So and again, it may look a little bit too complicated, but the only thing you need to worry about is this section here that says value. So we've got one field here that says it's a text field, and we've got one CNAME record here. So you don't really need to worry about what these fields actually mean, as long as they match. Excuse me. As long as they match within the back end of our domain, we should be good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up our back end of our domain on another screen. I'm just going to show you where they should match up. So this is the back end of my client's domain. And the section that you want to look for is DNS records. So these are sections linked to your domain specifically. So if these don't match to your domain, then it shows up as a broken link. So if we look now, so you see where it says type, we want to look for the first field, which was text. So if I go all the way down to text, you can see we've got a text field there, and I'll just make it a little bit bigger. And you can see in here, so we've got several fields. So we've got an edit field, we've got a delete field, we've got TTL. That just tells you the amount of time it takes to refresh the records. So again, all we need to worry about is the type and where it says data. So again, if we look into the text field there, the text field, so you can see it should say, I'll just bring this across so you can see, so it should say one-time verification B1054614 blah 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 blah, and it ends in 8BC. So you can see there we've actually got two text name records, and what we need to make sure of is that we have the correct domain selected before we do that. So if I go back to, so my client has purchased several domains here. So if I come into, that's the one they want, Shrine Crystals in there. So if I come into shrinecrystals.co.uk, and again, because you can see we've got two settings there. So maybe one was there originally, and for whatever reason, when we sent a couple of automatic requests to the domain to be linked up, maybe one of them was duplicated. I'm not quite sure why there's two. Maybe there's needed to be two. I'm not sure. But what I'm going to do just to test this is we can see that one looks pretty much the same. I'm going to copy and paste this in anyway. What I'm going to do is just delete that one there. So that's fine. Delete that one. So the only text records that we have there now are that one there. So if I now come into here, highlight all that text in the value, click copy, and if I come back to this screen now, and I come down to my text record and I'm going to edit that. So all we need to change is just this value here. So I'm going to come into there, highlight it all, press Control V, or you can right click on the keyboard like that and go to paste and just press save. That's that one done, and we just need to do the same for the CNAME record. So we should have a www, and then we've got proxy.ssl.webflow.com, which you can see there we have. So I'm not sure whether it will make much of a difference, but I'm just going to delete that full stop at the end there, because that might be something that's been put there by mistake. So we've got www and then proxy.ssl.webflow. Yeah, we need to double check that's correct, which it is. So we're going to come into there, delete that, press save. So hopefully now that is going to ensure that our domain is correct. So if we come back to here and we have a button there that says click verify. So if I click verify again, so you can see now it says custom domain verified. So fingers crossed now it's connected those two. So again, we've got our www and it says connected but not published, and we have shrinecrystals.co.uk and that's connected and not published. So what we're going to do is make the www our default. So if I click that now, so now if we publish our site, it should be that this is going to all be okay. So I'm going to go to publish, and now you can see our domain has popped up there in our production again, and you can see it says not published. So all I'm going to do is just click on this button here to highlight it, and I'm going to go to publish to selected domains, and now it's preparing to publish. And so now, like I said, it might be a couple of hours wait, but if I just press Control R to refresh this page now, you can see that this is the finished site for the client now. And this is how it should look. So hopefully that made sense. I know it can be a little bit complicated, but there are some things that you just need to not worry about. And typically, most website providers will give you some instructions as you're going through, so it's not as complicated as you might think. So again, I hope you found this useful. If you have any web design or technical web related questions, just give me a shout. I'm always happy to just have a chat. And I hope you enjoyed the content. So thank you.